Hello and welcome to PTV World special transmission on the current developing situation between India and Pakistan. And in the previous hour, we were also discussing what has been happening in, of course, the ways that we've seen the situation evolve. We have seen both the civil and military leadership of Pakistan have a united front and make it very, very clear that we are not in favor of war. But if that is something that is going to come our way, then we are fully prepared to deal with that threat. And this is, of course, something that has happened previously as well and historically been proven too. At the same time, Pakistan is also making efforts towards de-escalation and has been engaging with regional and diplomatic partners, of course with the US as well, with reference to how this can move forward towards de-escalation. We've seen countries such as the US also engaging on both sides and calling for peace and stability in the region. How much of that, of course, will actually take place and what will be the ways in which that can happen with India, of course, with the kind of rhetoric and statements that have been coming in and the irresponsible actions that we've seen coming in, whether or not that takes place still remains to be seen. But that, of course, is the hope that we would like the situation to take. At the same time, of course, it is very, very important to also understand the kind of potential threats that exist from both two nuclear armed states and possible escalation of the current situation as well. We've also, of course, put forward very clear facts with evidence as to what the situation is and how India has been involved in state-sponsored activities and terror networks in the region. And this, of course, is very, very essential to the conversation, as Pakistan also calls for an independent and neutral investigation into the Pahalgam incident so that the situation is clarified, because the kind of baseless allegations that has been put forward without any evidence towards Pakistan is something that needs to be cleared. So that's going to be something we'll focus in our transmission today. For this and more, as always, in the studios, I've been joined by senior analyst Pitafi and Raja Faisal, and we've also been joined online by former ambassador Dr. Jamil Khan. Thank you very much, Dr. Jamil, for joining us and being a part of our discussion. We're, of course, going to be taking a look at the current situation. And so, Dr. Jamil, I want your take as to where do you think this current scenario stands today, given, of course, what has happened since the 22nd of April, since the Pahalgam incident, and then moving on, the kind of measures that we saw India undertake, the reciprocal measures by Pakistan, and to where we stand today in the ways that we see different moves and different steps being taken by the BJP government. How do you think this, the situation is currently progressing? Is it moving towards de-escalation or not?
Well, let's discuss it in three steps. Step one should be the historical background and basically the trend which India has developed over a period of time. And the second is the current scenario and the current threats and the current allegation which India leveled against Pakistan, and by making that as a cause has really taken certain action, including violation of Indus Water Treaty articles and clauses. So I'll come and deliberate on both these points. The background is that India is quite in a habit of false flag operation. And it's all recorded, what I'm going to just enumerate that. One is that even 2016, 2018, 2020, 2021, once Clinton visited India, they had that Chhattispura incident of the Sikhs, and then later on, once Mike Pompeo visited, and then later on, Blinken visited, and now what they have done in Pahalgam. This time they did it quite hurriedly, and it appears that they could not really connect the dots as to how to even level the allegation against Pakistan. We understand that India has not been able to, or rather not, has never left a chance of alleging Pakistan, and that narrative of that rhetoric time and again, which India says that cross-border linkage, cross-border terrorism, any UN platform, if they find any platform, they will just try and do that. And every time there is some VIP visiting in India, why that time or those few days are chosen for such incidents? That's one. Second, Pakistan doesn't gain anything. If they allege Pakistan, and assuming that if it was any other country or Pakistan, once some VIP and dignitary is visiting, why and what benefit another country would get by getting involved into any of these things? So that's just normal logic and That's a normal point which could be analyzed. That is one part. And second is that every time these VIPs or these high dignitaries coming, they would like to include Pakistan's name in the joint statement of those visits, official visits. Now, this time they couldn't have that with the Vice President J.D. Vance. They couldn't have that joint statement issued. And second is that they tried to incorporate, or they tried to have a statement of the Security Council, and in that the Indian tried that Pakistan's name could somehow be incorporated so far as the linkage of Pahalgam incident is concerned. But the Security Council members did not agree, particularly our all-time friend like China. They did not really agree to that statement, and they would have vetoed if some countries have tried the mover of the statement. If they had tried that, mover of the statement was the United States, and the United States States didn't really press it much, and they agreed to the modifications. So these are some of the background. These are some of the factual things, and then now coming over to the point that this allegation and this temperature which has been risen, Pakistan didn't go for it. As a matter of fact, and Pakistan is still maintaining that we are not going to be the aggressor. We don't want to get into it. We want peace. In fact, and every time any person from Pakistan has made a statement, particularly the responsible people, they have very clearly dilated upon one point that we would, we like peace, we don't want any aggression, but if something is imposed on us, then obviously Pakistan would be left with no choice but to retaliate. And that retaliation is the right of any sovereign country to maintain its territorial integrity, and that is what has been deliberated, discussed, and the statement issued by the National Security Committee. Those points which has been published, known to the people. I'm sure it has been considered by the Security Council also, because that's a public document, that's an official document, that's a unanimous document, and that is a document which pertains to what scenario has developed and what India is now doing. Now, India, another news which is coming, that they have mobilized their naval power, they have mobilized their military, they have asked their civilian population to just go into the bunkers along the LOC line of control, and also they have asked their farmers to really try and just harvest their crop as early as possible. Rather, they had given about 26 to 48 hours, so that would be completing perhaps tomorrow. So all that gestures and all those steps which India is taking, it leads us to believe, and of course, the intel information which the Minister of Information has already very clearly mentioned during the statement, and the world has monitored that Pakistan has a credible information that next 36 hours, as at that time he said, and now that would be completing perhaps tomorrow. And that's why even today, after 3 a.m. During the night, the airspace would be closed, because we are expecting, and there are intel until in the morning. So Pakistan would be fully alert. Our Air Force would be completely alert. There are some intel which we could gather from the statement of Minister of Information, that they have their planning and they have zeroed some of the target. Perhaps our armed forces, they intercepted it and they know it. So therefore, they have taken appropriate measures in those areas in particular. So where do we go from here? Now the world community, one by one, is trying to mediate, is trying to tell the Indians, and of course, they're desiring that it should be de-escalated. Now, Pakistan doesn't have anything to de-escalate. Pakistan has only said that we would retaliate because that's our sovereign right, that's given in the United Nations Charter, that's given in the United Nations Charter Chapter 1, that each country, if attacked, has the right to defend itself and respond appropriately with the equal amount of measure and then report to the Security Council. So that's what Pakistan has already informed the entire world community. And that's why Michael Rubio has spoken with our Prime Minister. That's why Michael Rubio has spoken with the Indian Foreign Minister also, the External Minister, and has asked them to work out something to de-escalate. Well, we never wanted to escalate. We are only responding to what India is saying. We are only responding to the Indus Water Treaty that has, in a very clear term, been known to the entire world that water is our life, and that is under our treaty. And if that treaty is violated, our lives of the people are at stake. 240 million people are at stake. So once that's on stake, the war or the weapons are not the only instrumental or not the only tool to kill people. If you stop the water of a complete nation, then it tantamounts to killing the people. And that's why Pakistan is in its sovereign right to respond to it. And then they reserve the right,
Yes,
what
of
they
course.
would do at
That
that
is
time.
extremely important. And Jamil Sahab, I'll come back to that in a bit, and we'll discuss that in further detail. But Faisal, let me just quickly get your perspective to the discussion as well, particularly in terms of the kind of positioning do you think India is at currently? If we're going to review the situation, starting off from the Belgaum incident on the 22nd of April to where we stand today, do you see a difference?
Well, there is a difference, and of course, that difference is on the basis of many reasons. And one of the reasons I was just going through, and that reason is that amid war fears, India urgently seeks source code of Rafale fighter jets from France. A reluctant Paris says it can't. They don't want to give it to India. Reason being, India has been asking them on the basis that Palgam attack has taken place, and of course, we desperately need it because we might be heading towards the war. And Paris, and of course, Paris has simply refused them. Reason being, none of the countries, the Western countries, they are buying their propaganda. They have been running a smear campaign on their channels, and they have been promoting hate amongst their masses against Muslims, against Kashmiris, against Pakistanis, and this has been, of course, taken very, very seriously by the Western countries, including France, and that is why they are coming up with these kind of reasons. And to me, I think nobody is buying their war hysteria. Nobody is getting into the kind of warmongering they are running on their channels and running in their speeches that they are delivering at the election sermons. So to me, I think India is badly failing in terms of towing the narratives they initiated very first day, and that is why we are seeing that the steps which India has been taking in terms of without thinking the consequences since the very first day, now they have thought that they are caught up in a quagmire from where they have to, of course, get out of it clean. And in this context, of course, they will take their steps reversal, and of course on the basis of they will be claiming that, oh, we can understand that IWT is of importance for not only for the humans, but of course it has repercussions for the nature as well. So India is a nature loving country. Now they will be coming up with these kind of statements. And when it comes to going back on their stance of course like we've been seeing that we want war against Pakistan, now they will be saying India is going to act like a responsible nuclear state, and these kind of statements they will be coming up very soon. Reason being, now they have taken a taste from the Western countries as well. They know that Pakistan's stance is of a very responsible country, and the world is of course looking at Pakistan. Since the very first day, Pakistan has been very responsible in terms of responding to war hysteria of India, and I think it has been appreciated by the Western countries, by the most powerful countries, and that is why we are seeing that the Pakistani government is intact, in touch with not only the regional powers but the world powers as well. This shows that Pakistan is a responsible state, and responsibility that Pakistan has taken, it is actually forcing India to be responsible in the region.
Right. And Farooq, your perspective on this too, given the fact that when we take a look at possible interventions or roles that different countries can play in the de-escalation, you've earlier also spoken about a number of things that have taken place in terms of political developments from India as well. Are they because of the kind of diplomatic pressure has been exerted by these different countries, or is that something that has happened from within India?
Right, both I think, and there is a realization also. But for the benefit of Ambassador Saab, because he was not in the previous segment,
please go ahead.
let me repeat one aspect, that is regarding the warning that Information Minister put out. Right. After that, Ambassador Saab, it is very important to know that within hours, Rafales, 2 Rafales from Indian side tried to actually cross LOC. And at that time, they were accosted by Pakistani planes, and after that, they scrambled off, and this dogfight or the possibility of an escalation was avoided. So that information, that report on which the minister was basing his information or his talk, proved to be correct. And I hope that in coming days, things de-escalate, and we don't have to look at the possibility of a setting window of escalation or something of that sort, right? Now, regarding what you were saying, look, there is one thing that one has, there is a rule of thumb and there is a lesson out of this whole story. Never jump the gun. Till the time you don't have all your facts together, never accuse the other side, right? And it is something that has actually proven the weakest point of Indian side, because they did not have the perpetrators, and by the way, because they did not and they overreacted, they allowed Pakistan to actually present its case before they could produce evidence. We did, and showing India's complicity in terrorism in Pakistan. So now what happens? Now even if they come up with some kind of accusatory content, what happens? People will immediately either think exactly what they did with the, their intelligence operative that we have in our custody, right? This false sense of equivalence that both sides are doing exactly the same thing, right? On one side, okay, if they have done it, you have done it also. This is first possibility. The second one in everybody's mind would be that something has been cooked, right? So they lost the initiative immediately when they jumped the gun and suspended IWT. They should have taken their sweet time, apprehending the people, building the case, and then accusing. But because they allowed the media pressure to, lead them, that's how they actually ruined their case. Then, of course, there hasn't been, and this is the most amazing part, right? Indian media even today is saying that Pakistan is isolated. There are only 2 countries, China and Turkey, which are standing with it. Come on, smell some coffee and wake up, right? The entire world is standing with us because nobody wants a nuclear war.
Yeah.
And there's always a possibility of escalation, and we are not being irrational party. We are saying from day one, we condemn it. And by the way, Indian media did not report that Pakistan did condemn on day one. Second thing, they did not actually tell their audience, and this is a fact, Pakistan said, if there's evidence, give us that, and we'll move on it. There wasn't any mention. Then Pakistan said, okay, go for a neutral probe, and we are going to cooperate. They did not even do that. So they lost all the initiative, and they lost the narrative warfare against Pakistan because of their silliness, right? And by the way, right now I think that the producers can show you the text of a document that has been found posted in Telegram, and I think that in a bit that will be highlighted. And it actually shows the complicity of allegedly, of course, complicity of India's RAW, which says that in Anantnag, which is the area, general area of Pahalgam, right? There's going to be, we can actually stage something, and within minutes, AI will be used to disseminate, statements or this trend to implicate Pakistan. If it actually proves to be true, and I hope that in a bit it comes, we have actually highlighted that text also. It will show in a bit, right? So that is the story of the hour also. Pakistan seems to be getting all the gifts possible, and India seems to be shooting itself in the foot. So I think that Modi ji, being the same person in this equation, has shown the kind of temperance. Yeah, this is the text that was posted, and look at the highlighted text also, and it mentions all those things, right? So this is also very important development, and I hope that they investigate this too, because nobody wants. Remember, on day one again, I said that India cannot be great or Vixit, so to speak, without them loving their own citizens more than they hate us.
Yeah.
Right? If you're killing your own people or allowing your people to be killed,
Yeah.
just to get back at us, that actually shows that you're not ready for the world stage of greatness, right? So I think that at this moment, both factors have worked. On their side, there was, this hurry to actually try to implicate Pakistan or frame Pakistan without evidence. It did not help their cause. And secondly, of course, it is also thanks to our diplomacy, thanks to the generosity of our allies and our common friends, that they have also seen a wisdom in the whole story, and they have also played their part. And third, and this is perhaps the most important thing, our readiness to fight back, our readiness to act as a nation, right? In all those funny memes, which are actually using self-deprecating humor, there is an ownership for this country, and that matters the most, right? They are showing that we are one country. So I think that in this whole situation, we have really worked as a nation. Our leadership has really led well. By the way, another very good example, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, his speech, by the way, Indian media and Indian leaders would use every kind of horrible language against everyone in Pakistan's leadership, right? And Pakistan, common Johnnies like me. But sadly, whenever a Pakistani leader uses some angry language, immediately they say he is the enemy of the civilization, right? First, they actually kept offloading on the army chief because he had mentioned two-nation theory. Prove him wrong. You are actually making two-nation theory active in India, right? And the reason we are saved is that we separated. The second one, is Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. They hate his guts. And when PTI actually, tries to speak against Bilawal Bhutto Zardari because they don't want, any hero other than their own.
Yeah.
And I respect their sentiment. But Bilawal Bhutto Zardari said something about blood and, water. So after that, they have gone ballistic. And then Bilawal did this incredible job at BBC, talking to BBC. And when he was speaking there, I mean, he actually cleared everything, right? So I think that the entire country, and by the way, I must praise PTI also, I must praise PMLN, People's Party. Everyone has played their role. Every handle, every website has been working for the national cause, and we should be proud of this. We have become a nation.
Right, and that is of course integral, and we hope that also is continuing in times of peace also. Dr. Jamil, I'll come to you with reference to what we have seen, particularly in the response coming in from Pakistan's side, and I hope that you can hear me. There is of course a lot of concern with regards to the way that this is going to evolve, but we've seen Pakistan exercise a lot of responsibility, a lot of restraint in their actions, and a lot of sense in the ways it engages with the diplomatic community in this regard. And what all, of course, Farooq was also pointing towards is essential ingredient as we move forward, the kind of political and military unity that we've also engaged in is essential with the kind of resolve that is needed. But at the same time, I also want your take in how much of that is going to be reciprocated from the Indian side, whether it's coming in from their internal pressures or diplomatic pressures. And add to that, Pakistan's call for a neutral and independent investigation into the Pahalgam incident is very, very essential to making things clear and to hold those who are responsible accountable. Do you think that that's something that India will allow?
And that was such an open offer, and the entire world, I'm sure, must have factored in while they are talking to India, and while the Security Council statement was being passed. At that time, also the offer of Pakistan was very logical, and it stands to reason that if someone is alleging you, you say, "Okay, I'm open. Let's investigate it, and let's have it investigated from an impartial and a neutral third party." But they did not really agree to it. So that means there is something wrong. And there was some thing which we got to know through their own leaked papers, which is now available, which Farak was just mentioning about the Telegram, which came on Telegram. That's their own insider has leaked it out, because not all people working for RAW or working for any other governmental organization are the voters or supporter or the radicals of the RSS, who are providing all the support and power to BJP to do whatever they are doing against the minorities, against the Muslims, against the Dalits, against the Christians, against the Sikhs. So they are the one, and basically the leaked document, which now is open, and the entire world, I'm sure, those who are intervening and those who are mediating and those who are making their comments, knowing that if it escalates, it could have the consequences not only for India and Pakistan, but it can have the consequences which Pakistan really doesn't want it. Pakistan, as very clearly spelled out, and as they have remained within the international legal framework while they have made whatever statements they have made through the National Security Committee, and then what they have said, that they will give an equal or the measure of response if there is any misadventure. And then the planes which scrambled, or the Rafale plane, which were close to to our airspace. But then our aircraft, once they scramble, and then I must appreciate our capacity and our human skills, our pilots and our radar operators. The radar, they were able to strike the waves and rays to those aircrafts, and they had to really run away from there. And that they have tested the Rafale capability with the aircraft what we have, the Thunder 17 and F-10, and other equipment, the radar equipment. So they have seen, they tried, and Mr. Information alert while ago, he was again on air, and he mentioned that the threat is still there. So yes, India would try, because India has created a hype, and hype of the kind that they've become a slave of their own circumstances. The BJP government has become a slave of their own circumstances, that they have raised the temperature of their own society, particularly their own voter supporter. Not all people in India, there are saner elements, quite a large number of saner elements, the secular elements, they don't like. And then we can see the footage, how people are talking about the way the Modi government is dealing with the entire affairs. And we have already heard what Kashmiris have said, and what those people who were the tourists and those survival, what they have said, that how they were helped out by the local people, how they one of the Muslim pair, they were attacked and succumbed to the injuries. So all these facts are there in front of the people around the world. And now, what other options are available? With India, India only wants to exploit its geopolitical significance, and that geopolitical significance is about the containment policy of the United States. That is its foreign policy, and in that, India has a significance. So India tries to exploit even the United States, and this time, in my view, United States has really had the inkling that what India is doing. India is trying to empower, the United States is trying to empower India for the containment of China. And India is diverting that power towards Pakistan and trying to exploit it by going and taking extra legal step like, in the Spotted Treaty, abeyance. There is no word used in this water treaty where any article or anything could be put in abeyance. Yes, suspension is one thing, but even that's not mentioned, but that's mentioned in the Vienna Convention, 1969. And they could not have invoked that because that has certain steps to be followed. So since I was what I was discussing, Pakistan, in all their about 17, 18 points, which they had issued the statement after the National Security Committee, they are all within the legal international framework. We have not acceded. Now, what happens next? India is in the state of preparedness. We are in the state of preparedness anytime, all the time, because our people and our armed forces, they are so involved they are so battle hardened because of these terrorist activities and terrorist groups. They are all deployed. Indians, they have not really seen the conflict for the last several years. This actual line of actual control was just a skirmishes, and a very small segment of the armed forces were exposed to it. Our armed forces are quite well battle hardened because they are doing it on daily basis. They are quite well deployed and in all those areas which are terrorist infested area. So they have done good practice, and Pakistan has a full preparedness, which they have demonstrated. And at the same time, as I was mentioning, now look what Modi has given the instructions. Modi has given full freedom to its armed forces in a security meeting that, okay, you respond, you choose your target, and then go for that. So imagine they had to change one corps commander, they had to change the deputy Air Force commander. And that shows that even within their armed forces, there are saner element. They understand what could be the consequences. They understand the level of preparedness of our armed forces. They know that what embarrassment can be faced by India with the kind of a hype they have created and the way Modi administration, Modi himself presiding over a meeting, he says that, okay, you have a full freedom and go and attack whatever target you zero in. So that, and then for that purpose, they can do a couple of things which the world is monitoring, which appears that as they've been doing it in past, they might as well do it again. That is the covert military operations. And then for that also, the readiness and preparedness as our military leadership and the political leadership has already very clearly dilated upon. And then the second option, which they tried while once they scrambled the Rafale aircraft, and we saw that once our Air Force was also in the air. Once they scrambled, the public, the surgical strike, that would again this time be a mistake like Pulwama, and that would be responded because of this preparedness. Naval mission, they have fired few missiles as a practice, as an exercise, and they've tested their multiple capability. So our
Right. Thank you very much, Ambassador Saab, for joining us and being a part of the discussion. I believe we've lost a connection. But Faisal, I'll come with you with reference to what the Ambassador was pointing towards, and it's important and essential to understand how it is that we want to move forward and what sort of engagements and rhetoric we're seeing coming in from the Indian side. But in terms of what we have seen going on, especially with the Indian media, and you of course have appeared on the channels as well, I want your perspective in terms of how the different political elements, other than the BJP, are actually playing out this current situation, and how much are they factoring into what the BJP government is now moving towards.
Yes, and I have actually closely watched the kind of narratives they were coming up with. Of course, anyone out of the BJP, I was expecting that they will be having a different kind of stance. But of course, few of the people like Rishi Tharoor, when I went through his article, it suggests that somewhere down the line he might seek the probe so that the clarity is there, but at the same time he knew that he wanted to play the gallery as well, because he knew that the people at large, they want to listen to this war hysteria and war mongering. So he said that we have to of course do our best to reply to the enemy and Pakistan and blah blah blah, and he was coming up with this kind of narrative. But overall, the opposition benches and the other parties, of course, they were careful after one of the ministers, one of the states ministers, when he came up with this statement that we need a probe because it seems that it's a false flag, and of course there is a Chunav election once more, and that is why BJP is heading towards their old tactic of winning elections. And when he came up with this kind of statement, he was simply imprisoned. And after that, any voices that were out there wanting to chant the false flag mantra and show mirror to BJP and show mirror to treasury benches, of course they kept quiet. Reason being, they knew that the kind of sentiment, the war hysteria, the war mongering, it has been created by the media, it has been created by the BJP government. Of course, they just wanted to secure themselves, because they knew that if they go towards any sanity, they will be considered as the perpetrators, or either perpetrators or being part of the perpetrators. And even the people who were on the roads coming up with this kind of slogans that we need a probe rather than simply blaming it to Pakistan, they were being considered as the associates of Pakistan and agents of ISI on their streets. And so everyone has been very cautious in terms of what they say in public and what they say on the media and in the parliament as well. Reason being, this is how the war, this is how the sentiment of hate, the sentiment of fear plays in India, in today's India. Very India that calls itself a secular state, it has many avenues from which they can simply ignite hate, they can simply ignite fear, and that fear and hate is playing really well for BJP and really well for the government itself. So that is why they keep on doing that. When it comes to people like Shashi Tharoor, and when it comes to people like who are considered in the West as the sane people, still what happens is, in these kind of times, they don't show their true colors, they don't show their true capabilities, rather they stick to whatever is going on the ground, so that they simply not fully become part of it, but make themselves aligned with that narrative.
And Farooq, I want you to add to that, and also with reference to what we've discussed earlier in the previous segment as well, as to what is perhaps a better or a saner political element existing within India, whether or not that's the BJP or that's another political element in the country. I want your take on that, because you were, of course, making us understand how the Prime Minister is doing some sort of good moves. But in a more broader sense, as the government or the head of the country, does the BJP government or Prime Minister Modi work for both India and for the region?
By the way, Sana, we are heading towards end of a two hours, so don't worry.
That is correct, but I don't get it.
Because you have a bit of lack of energy right at the end every day.
Right, I don't think so. By the way, I want to answer your question, and I'm going to. But before that, because Shashi Tharoor was actually mentioned, and there is another bloke called Javaid Akhtar. I want to actually talk about these two tragedies. Right? Now, Shashi Tharoor, I'm a voracious reader. I cannot help myself if I find some material, I cannot stop reading it.
Yeah.
Right? So Shashi Tharoor has been a great writer. He has also represented India at the UN. A total charmer, very smart man, handsome man also. I've seen, women actually take notice. But then something happened during the early days of BJP's rule, and that was death of his wife, and then a case that was built on him, accusing him, right? After that, it seemed that he lost all the volition, and every time he would actually say something which was good or conscientious, immediately the raids would start, probe would start. So that's how they have conditioned him. So at this moment, while I respect his intellect, I respect the core of his being, but I cannot trust whatever comes from it. Right? Regarding Javaid Akhtar, I mean, his wife, I've been a huge fan of his wife, and by the way, when I was very young, I had a huge crush on her as well. Shabana Azmi, a great actress, beautiful actress, right? And I used to think that how can there be somebody who has no fault, right? No flaw. And then I saw her husband, and I said that this proves nobody is perfect. But Javaid Akhtar has also been very gifted, a gifted poet, although most of his poetry has been borrowed, especially his script for Sholay drama, the movie in India was plagiarized. Now everybody knows that, right? But regardless of that, that man has proven to be one hell of a troll. Pakistan opens its arms and asks him to come in. And what does he do? Sitting right in front of you, abuses you and runs away. And then goes to India and says, look, I have actually scored a point. And now at this time also, Pakistani and Indian entertainment industry, especially as it existed in the past, should have a great opportunity to work together. India has great music. It has so much space in its Bollywood as well. Our actors go as well. So Fawad Khan is his name, right? The very famous actor. He had a movie and then it was like suspended or cancelled or whatever. And at that time, Javaid Akhtar says that, cooperation between the two countries is one way. Yeah, what a cheap thing to say. At a time when the world is just fearful of an explosion in this region, right? Petty people are going to be petty. I have told you these two tragic stories. Regarding, the good guys, now I believe that BJP is the good guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I have huge respect for Sonia Gandhi, her son and her daughter. Rahul Gandhi has actually really done some incredible job for supporting this cause of caste census, quite against his own party's origin story, because initially they were the ones who used to deflect it. But sadly, they haven't been able to win. And we cannot actually live in fool's paradise. Modi ji is present reality, and he seems to be undefeatable, right? If he, by the way, I'm telling you this, if he actually manages to de-escalate the situation and then a door is opened for some kind of negotiation between Pakistan and India, I'm going to take upon myself, and our Indian friends have some understanding, some idea about my capabilities. So internationally also in the region. So his dream of becoming the statesman who wins the Nobel Prize one day, I'm going to be committed to that, if that happens. But at this moment, look, everybody that you talk, those people who are actually spouting vile language on their channels, if you personally meet them, they're normal human beings and they respect you also. But unfortunately, this monster that has been created, television monster, and this monster of hate is such that everyone, it brings out the worst in people. I told you about one minister, actually, one spokesman actually talking about his circumcision
Yes.
and whatnot. So that kind of hideous things can be actually separated, and eventually there can be peace, right? I hope peace comes to this region because India has huge potential. The only thing is it has learned, there's this phrase, hurt people,
Yeah.
right? Now, if you put a comma, that becomes something else.
Yeah.
That becomes a slogan.
Yeah.
But here is the problem. India, like Israel, India can take the worst, lessons from their history and actually act upon them, that you become your own oppressors, like the oppressors that were there in the past. Or then you can learn that you have this ancient wisdom of 5,000 years.
Yeah.
And you become literally the wish guru. You can, right? And you don't have to bully people for that. You can work with them and take them ahead. So why should India be a voice of some kind of imperialism or change of permanent members in the UNSC rather than the idea of abolishing that and empowering General Assembly, UN becoming a really, truly democratic body, right? The only thing is that they think, and this is why I once mentioned that East India Company, there is a company called East India Company even now. Do you know who owns it? An Indian. So hurt people, you become your own oppressors or you model yourselves after your oppressors. It's not a good idea. The East India Company has done terrible things in Asia,
Yeah,
South
absolutely.
Asia, right? You should not actually be resurrecting its name.
Yeah.
Similarly, you should not be trying to become another imperialist power. You should be an ally that one can rely on. And everybody will come to you and become an ally. You are working with China, right? The only problem is, and again, that is the broken nature of this experience of horrendousness, 1,000 years of some kind of separation, that you actually think that that is the only way. So you become something else against Pakistan and something else against China. When China actually, you have fight with China, then you say, oh, nothing happened, nothing happened. The people are sitting in your land,
Yeah.
you say nothing happened, right? Or your controlled land or claimed land. When it comes to Pakistan, nothing happened, but you see Pakistan's hand even in the things that might not have been associated with Pakistan.
Yeah.
So that shouldn't be the case. If Modi ji and his team and his party and his government actually decide that now we are not going to be bullies and we are going to work with Pakistan, you don't need these mind games to
Right.
manipulate people. We are rational people. We have learnt our lesson from the past. If you are playing with fire today, in the past we have also played with fire. We have burnt our house down, almost literally. Why would we actually want you to suffer? We don't want to, right? So there's always this space. I hope that India is listening and is ready to work with us as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Farooq, and thank you, Faisal, for joining us in this special transmission. That's all that we have time for today. We'll now see you tomorrow.